Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond Cancer, where I take a look at what it looks like going forward after losing your loved one to that terrible disease, and kind of giving a faithful recounting of my previous months directly following and where I'm at now and how I'm going forward. Before I jump in and get started, I have been I've gotten suddenly self-conscious now. I keep looking at these files in as I upload them, right? And I keep them in Dropbox. And I'm sorting through these files and I'm like, why am I always wearing an orange shirt? And if it's not an orange shirt, it's like a blue shirt. Like, Darren, get a new shirt. So now I'm wearing green. It's one that doesn't quite fit very well, but if I don't pan the camera down, you can't see that all that well. So, yeah, that's my solution. Oh gosh. I've mentioned it before. I'm very utilitarian. If there's a shirt or something that works, it's like, oh, I'll wear it until the seams fall out of it. And I don't really think of like buying stuff for myself until it's an absolute necessity. So, Brittany had a moment during our journey where she lost it. She was like, Darren, if I'm going to be seen with you in public, you've got to have something other than two shirts. So we went shopping, and I've got a bunch of really nice shirts, and I do, and they're all roughly the same color. These solid shirts that are orange and red and blue, and here's my green one. And so now I'm feeling even more self-conscious continuing to talk about it. But it's neither here nor there. It's besides the point. So I think one of the things that I mentioned in the last episode was that I mentioned taking down some of our wedding photos off the walls and replacing them with some of the paint pouring stuff that we do. And I finished up mine, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn on some lights and I'll show you that one. All right, so this one's mine. I've kind of went a little crazy with it, but I think it's all right. I've got my two favorite colors in there, green and purple, and got the nice little splashes of silver and a base of black for the background, because I'm dark and moody. If there's any photographers in the watching this right now, Brittany was always very light and bright and airy, and if I had to pick a style that I would like to be, I would have been dark and moody. It's just how it would have been. So anyway, and for those of you wondering what hers is going to look like, this is the current process of what it's like right now. Still got a little more drying to do, which means the colors are going to continue to pull and run, but I think this is a good coloration. Maybe a little too much gold, but I'll take it. I think it's a good representation, and I think it'll go nicely up on the wall on the right hand side of the llamas. So anyway, bye that monster. Hey buddy. As you can see, my fridge has become a part of the collateral damage from the paint pouring, which I feel just kind of, adds to the art. So is the floor. Anyway, like I said, I'll make sure to show you guys the full thing once it's up on the wall, and once it's finished drying and hanging up, I'll make sure to let you guys see everything. But I think that's going to be a good, I don't know, not a replacement for the photos, but just sort of changing things up, moving along, making it, I don't know, doing honor by her, I feel. That'd probably be a good way to put it. So, anyway, that's it for my current up-to-date news. And let's jump right in. So, one of the things that this. So, January 22nd, 2003. I was at work, and I had previously turned in I took one of her death certificates that I had received, and I turned it in to essentially my insurance company, because they need proof, for the insurance and all that stuff. So I give them a physical copy, and I'm sitting there, and I'm holding the physical copy, and I look down at it, and I realize after I had already turned it in, I had an additional one there with me. For whatever reason, I grabbed two. But I realized that only now did I realize that there's a typo on her death certificate. My address is in 3 separate places on that death certificate. It's correct in the very first one, and then the other 2 spots further down the death certificate, they were incorrect. It looked like instead of a 0, someone typed a 9. So they literally fat fingered my address. So I begin to simultaneously be very upset. Obviously, I make a phone call to the funeral home, and they said that it was a mistake, probably on the coroner's end, not mine. So I really wouldn't have to do anything. I would they would make phone calls to the coroner and have them take care of it. Crisis averted. Everything was wonderful. And I just started laughing, because I was like, man, that was close. It almost feels very familiar to everything that me and Brittany had experienced. Like, every time we seemed like we got one step ahead, there was always, another step back. Like, it was just, everything kept going sideways. And if you followed us with the journey, you could see that happening in real time. And an hour later, I get a phone call. They're like, it's the funeral home, and they go, yeah, we called the coroner. The mistake was on our end, the funeral home. I was like, okay, what does that mean? That means you're gonna have to come back in and re-sign some stuff. So once again, I would have to leave work. So I decided to leave work early to go sign the affidavit, because since this is a legal record and changes have to be made, everything's got to be, signed by lawyers and whatnot. So I don't know. But the funeral home had the affidavit ready for me to go. And they were like, hey, you can just come in anytime you want. So I was like, all right, I'll drive in today, and I'll go sign this thing. The quicker we get this thing up and moving, the better. And on my way there, I just kept rehashing what it was like the day that Brittany passed, the day that we all went in there. I wanted my family with me, and I wanted to do honor by Brittany's extended family. I wanted them there as well. Her father, particularly, considering they had just reconciled and just made amends. And of course, Gran was there with me. And I just remember, I remember sitting there just, it really took all of us to communicate, because I wasn't getting any information out, nothing important. So I just kept thinking back to this and thinking back to my time, how I was literally supported by everybody. But this time I was going in alone. I was going in by myself. And it was me fixing an error, which was so common for me and Brittany. Like it was always a thing. Like we always had to fix something. We always had to solve a problem or whatever. And so at once it was this very dramatic, very emotional, oh my gosh, I'm going back to the place that I last, interacted with everybody, and, this sort of very monumental, place. And at the same time, it felt a little bit like coming home. It felt a little bit like, this is just par for the course. Of course things would go wrong. Of course things would go sideways. This is me and Brittany's life. We never had an easy moment. So, of course. So, I walked in there, and it wasn't nearly as dramatic as I thought it would be. I double and triple checked the signature, and signed the affidavit saying, yes, this is my address, not what's on the death certificate. And I went home. Little did I know that this process would start it would be another 2 months before I actually received her death certificate. And we'll talk all about that and all about the chaos that came from that situation. But yeah, it took 2 months. So anyway, I drove home, and that was that. So the last part of my notes for February 22nd was, I come home to a letter from MetLife containing the instructions on how to get her life insurance payout. Of course, it requires an original death certificate. And then I leave the rest of the journal portion blank, which is equal parts one of those things, what's unsaid is louder than the thing that is said. So rage, frustration, aggravation, you name it. Not only that, but seeing a physical number that represented the culmination of my wife's life and what she meant. You want to talk about a slap to the face? There could have been no amount of money in the world. She could have been insured for millions of dollars, and I would have looked at that sum of money and I would have turned my nose up at it and scoffed. I would have been irritated and angry, and it started a whole new set of I'd come home, I'd already had an emotional day, and I had come home and I was greeted by this, and I didn't handle it well. Of course I didn't handle it well. But sitting here now and looking back at that moment in time, I'm just going to keep saying the little thing, I said it a couple of episodes ago, and I'll say it again. Brittany was worth more than the sum of her parts. And she certainly was worth more than this simple little payout that her life insurance was worth. I don't know. I was still shocked by how small it seemed, how little the amount was. Not necessarily how little it was, but how little it seemed, how little it was just like, this is all you think she's worth. And this irrational anger of dealing with bureaucracy and dealing with the powers that be and wanting to scream at them like, she's worth more than this. Yeah, it was a trip. It was definitely a wild ride that night, and it just felt more like aggravation to a wound that was already there. Rubbing salt in, continuing to irritate the already me attempting to heal, right? Like, I just got my feet underneath me. I just finished up her memorial service, and I just got to one knee and I'm starting to stand up, and immediately I get, oh, her death certificate's wrong, and I'm swept off my feet. And then immediately I come home. Not only am I landed face down, but then I put my hand on the ground to kind of push myself back up, and I walk in the front door and find that letter, and then immediately get that hand knocked out and I fall flat on my face again. Like, I just kept getting beat over the head with more and more stuff. But that was just the reality of it. The reality is, life moves on. Life continues forward, regardless, irrespective of your feelings and your emotional state. It doesn't care. It just happens. And in an effort to make it easy on you, they give you everything all at once. Like, here, and they kind of give you this sort of like, hey, we've got programs. If you need to take your time with this, we have a way that we can, you can do this. It's frustrating. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling right now, but really that's just par for the course. Everything was so chaotic and everything was so disjointed and disorganized that whether it was my emotional status, the things happening in my life, the random events, it was all chaos. And it felt eerily comfortable while also being aggravating and exhausting. Because like I said, mine and Brittany's life was always a constant we were always looking for the next thing, like what's going to happen next. Like, praise God, we got a break, but hold on to your butts because we know something else is happening. And sure enough, a week or two later, we'd get an answer. There'd be something new. So yeah, that was the entirety of my journal entry for February 22nd, 2023. A lot of stuff happened in a single day, and obviously it ended with me not having a very good night. So, but yeah, we'll pick up the next time. Next time there will be a few more days involved. But yeah.